we've got roll down. The first chapter in our text is actually just called What is Plant Biology? So we know that plant life constitutes more than what, 98% of the total biomass of the earth. And when we talk about biomass, what we're talking about is the collective dry weight of living organisms. So we know it constitutes 98%. And what would happen if we didn't have oxygen?
We die.
We would all suffocate, wouldn't we? So how long do you think it would take before we ran out of oxygen if we were not completely recycling and making oxygen every single day? Would you be surprised to find out that it's like 11 years? We could make it 11 years, but then we'd all be gone. So we've got to recycle that oxygen every single day. So that's 11 years if it's not replaced. And then we are, oops. I gotta remind me if I start that cursive stuff again. So humans and animals all have dependency on plants. And we automatically think of things like corn, potatoes, rice, vegetables, things that we eat, right? But all of our foods, what other foods? I know you guys know this because I had you before. It would be all of our meat, our fish, poultry, eggs, cheese, milk. We all owe all of this to the existence of plants. How come? What do those things eat?
Grass, plants, cows, plants.
Okay, it's
Also-
early. You guys are just not,
Also,
you're just not receptive yet, are you? Okay. So, what about things like condiments and spices? Are those derived from plants? Yeah. Perfumes. Yeah, they are. They're produced by plants. Some of our dyes are produced by plants. When I was little and we would go camping, I've always been an artsy person, so I would go and I would dig, while my dad was out fishing and stuff, we'd camp with 3 or 4 other families that all had kids the same size, and I'd go to the bank where you could see the clay, and I would dig it out, and I would make stuff like pottery out of it, and I would fire it in the campfire, and then I would actually collect berries, and I would smash up leaves and different things like that, and I would make my own dyes to then paint those things with. So, plants. More than y'all wanted to know, isn't it? So. Adhesives, digestible surgical stitches. The fibers that are in that are made from plants. Food stabilizers, beverages, and emulsifiers. So let's think now about our homes. What in our homes would we owe to plants? Lumber from trees. What about the furnishings in your house?
wood chairs.
Yes. And then also, what else do we get from trees? What do we get from lumber? We get the cellulose out of the trees for paper, cardboard, and to be used in synthetic fibers. So what about our clothing?
Cotton.
Another really strong fiber that was used a long time ago in denim was hemp. How about your camping equipment? thought about that? Bedding, draperies. Basically, any textile that you're talking about, have many different fibers that come from the different, plant families. What about coal? Coal is a fossilized plant material, and oil, and they come from microscopic green organisms and animals that either directly or indirectly were plant consumers. So we also have medicines, we have drugs, and at one time, these things all come from plants, fungi, bacteria, and some of our most important antibiotics come from there. Did y'all know that a lot of your antibiotics come from bacteria? Cool stuff, huh? Okay, microscopic organisms play a vital role in recycling both plant and animal waste and aid in the building of healthy soils. Others are responsible for human diseases and allergies. I probably should be in a petri dish with all of my allergies, so. The US is the largest producer of ethanol in the world, so corn and switchgrass and other sources of carbohydrates are currently used in the manufacturing of ethanol. And it's then blended with gasoline. There's also a cellulosic ethanol that's derived from inedible plant fibers such as wood chips or switchgrass, and some people have concerns over that. Any guess as to why? If there was a plant alternative, why somebody would even care? What about the amount of farmland? Maybe they're worried that the amount of farmland might be used for that they might need for other crops. That's what it is. Okay, so botany, as a science, it is the study of plants. So that comes from 3 different Greek words. I probably can't say this well, so I'll write it down, but botanikos, which means botanical, betaine, which is plant or herb, and boskine, which is to feed. So those are the 3 words. Then there is these are Greek. And then there is the French word. Can't read my own writing. Which means botanical. So that's where the word botany comes from. Actually, the French word the origins of it goes back to the Stone Ages, where people tried to modify their surroundings so that they could survive to live, so they could produce more food to thrive. And then they used it for medicinal reasons and other things, and then they really got into the study of plants after that. Science is distinguished from other fields of study by several different features. So we've got observation, recording, organization, classification, and that's the classification of facts. And then what is done with the facts? Okay, so we've got the scientific procedure, which is experimentation. Observation. Okay, so scientific procedure, you've got your experimentation, observation, and then verifying or discarding information. So this is done through inductive reasoning from known samples. There is no universal agreement on the precise details of the process, but this has led to a series of routine steps, and those steps are to ask the question, formulating a hypothesis, don't let me misspell something up here. Conducting experiments. And then developing a theory. So these steps right here are what is known as the scientific method. So this is a procedure for developing and testing your hypothesis. So we're going to look at the definition of who can tell me just a short definition of a hypothesis?
Educated guess.
Yes. Yeah, that's the one I always go to, an educated guess. I'm gonna run into that. Okay, it's much lengthier than an educated guess, but a hypothesis is a postulated postulated explanation for some observed facts that must be tested experimentally before it can be accepted as valid or discarded if it proves to be incorrect. Because sometimes what we have an educated guess on isn't right, is it? So you have to discard it and start all over again. So good experiments are ran in two different forms. The second form is called a control, and the first form, there is a specific aspect, or what we call a variable. One thing is changed, just one thing. Because if you have a control group where nothing changes, and then you just change one variable, what's gonna happen? You can see the difference between the two, but you've always gotta have that control group where nothing is changed. Do you think we should have picked 2 or 3 variables? If we were doing something with plants, should we have, changed the amount of water and changed the amount of temperature? No, you wanna just change one thing, one variable at a time, because if you did 2 or 3, you wouldn't know what really caused that, so you only change one thing at a time and compare it to the control group. So while testing a hypothesis is rigorous, there's a lot of steps, there's a lot of work to it. The development of a hypothesis is easy, cause it's just an educated guess. It's the testing of everything that's so rigorous and takes so much time, but you can come up with new hypotheses all the time. So, this allows science to be, what, more creative? Because what do we get to do? We get to look at the world in new and creative ways and try and figure things out. The next section that we get into deals with the diversities of plant study, and that's where we're gonna go into the anatomy, some more of the geology, and let's see, we're gonna talk a little bit about plant taxonomy too, but we're gonna stop there today because I'm gonna go to try and get you copies of your book so you'll have some stuff to read, okay? So I'm gonna turn the recording off.